Hello everyone, I am Tacet, and today I'm going to be going over the event objectives for the Gems of War Lore and Order event, in which the Keeper of Lore is added to the game. So let's get into that. As far as this troop, as per usual, it is pretty useless, though it is an epic and comes with really cheap brown purple arcanes. If you need them, you can get them essentially for 200 each, since there's 2 per pack. As far as what this does, it gets to half the magic of the strongest enemy. Keep in mind that the strongest enemy is considered whichever one has the highest total life plus armor, as far as which one it will target. It will not target the one that has the highest magic, but rather the highest durability. And then it gets to explode purple gems equal to the magic loss, which in most situations is going to be every purple gem on the board. Main issue with this is he doesn't have Empower or anything like that, so he's going to be quite a bit behind Leprechaun and most other mana accumulating methods. He does get a half magic reduction from that, however many things can still function pretty well with its magic halved, and also given that it automatically will hit always the strongest and you don't get to target who ends up hitting, it will often retarget the exact same thing, and obviously having a half is going to be very ineffective in most situations. So overall this thing's probably never really going to be used. Its traits are also pretty much equally as bad, so unfortunately going to be rather dead content that will just make doing kingdoms there or explore there even more annoying, since it does have a small chance of reviving on death, which is by far the most annoying mechanic that occurs within Explore, because if that occurs, that normally wastes at least a few seconds, if not longer, per battle that it happens on. But overall, pretty much never going to be used. As far as other things, we got 10% to all humans as well as 10% to all mystics. If you do want to use this thing for Explorer, at least it'll be viable this week. If you want to go gain a little bit of extra gold, you can kind of just plop him in as a useless 4th slot and use better mana generators and just go get 400 free gold per battle. And that would be the easiest way to do that. That or 1 trophy PvP. But either of those 2 locations, low level Explorer or low level PvP, is the main way that you would end up utilizing him if you want to go get that extra 400 gold per battle this week. As far as event keys this week, it is of course for Karakoth. One main noteworthy thing to mention about this is that Zugoth is not in the event key drop table. He can only ever be obtained via the Soulforge, so do be mindful of that. If we go over to Karakoth here and click show all, you'll be able to see every single Karakoth troop that exists. As far as what is available, every single thing here is available except for Zugoth, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, and Mizmer. Zugoth and Mizmer are the only 2 here that are not obtainable through the event key drop table. So overall, it's a pretty bad drop table. There's not much you'd really use. This could be okay for the Thursday event, but overall, definitely a week that you would consider skipping. The only way I would really say to go for event keys is this is a magic-based kingdom, so if you're looking to push to 5-star or 10-star Karakoth, you might want to throw event keys to do that for the permanent +1 magic bonus. But aside from that, there isn't really much of a need to go for event keys. As far as the mythic here that you can actually get is Vashtargon. He's basically just an alternative curse option that's occasionally used with Iron Gut, but it's so occasionally used that there's plenty of other options, and overall not really advised, since Mirage Queen can cover that instance in most situations and is much cheaper. Plus he still has a weird interaction where Black Beast is almost better than him due to how weird his little devour thing is, since it doesn't work on allies that are barriered. Kind of clunky troop overall. But anyways, skip event keys is the bottom line unless you're really looking to upgrade Karakoth this week to 5 or 10 star. Speaking of that, he can reach, or the kingdom can reach 16 stars today and 17 stars as of this Friday, because we are going to be having Bounty Hunter for this Friday event, so you will be able to get 16 stars and then 17 as soon as we get into Friday, if you can get all the upgrades for the star levels. I believe 17 is available. Let me go double check. Yes, all we need is the next troop, and that next troop is coming this Friday with Bounty Hunter. Anyways, as far as the Ward Law event, we got Summoning Solution. Basic premise with this is we got a bunch of battles. The Ancient Horror is the one that you generally don't want to do, and is only going to be worth 2 points. The Tacet, the one that begins with T and the C, those ones that you can't really pronounce, those 2. Any one of them that you can't pronounce are worth 3. Aberrath is worth 4. Vashtargon is worth 6, and there's a Tome of Evil, which has a base of 5. However, you do always want to go for the Tome of Evil when you see it, because that battle does have a increased amount based on the level. So if it's going to be at like level 50 or 100 or 200, it will end up increasing its points. So even though it theoretically has a 5 point base value, it does have a higher one than the Vashtargon room. So basically priority order would be Tome of Evil, then Vashtargon, then Aberrath, then the 2 that are impossible to say, and basically Ancient Horrors are the ones you'd basically never want to do, or at least ideally save absolute for last as far as optimizing the score for the week. That's pretty much how you go about it. We'll go over teams in a moment. However, as far as other things that we going on this week, we do have a Tuesday faction going on tomorrow for the Depths of Sin. which I believe is the first time it's been available since its very first time. Wednesday, we have the Karakoth pet. Thursday, we have the Sorcerer hero class, which is supposed to be a casting hero class. However, due to it not having a half mana start, Archmagus is basically the better version of it in almost every situation. So this hero class is pretty dead content. Even Necromancer and stuff is better than this in most situations. It could really use a buff. An overall very useless hero class, but before that reason, most people probably don't have it leveled, so you'll be able to get some more XP for it. And as I mentioned, and you can even see by this timer right here, this Friday we have Bounty Hunter. We also have a new Mythic, even though we are getting a Mythic very soon through the Battle Pass kind of system thingy. We are going to still be getting the Friday Mythic, as we normally do, every single first Friday of every month, and that does include this following Friday. The Mythic that is coming out is probably going to be completely dead content. It'll be for Mist of Scales and Oriali, but despite not really being used much, is probably better than the Mythic coming out this Friday, so definitely similar to event keys this week. It's a very skippable Mythic as well, so probably don't open any keys from about Friday to the following Friday once Friday hits, because unless you just really want to get it for completionist purposes, which we will be here on the channel and going over it, it's going to be pretty bad. It basically is just a bunch of random hits. It might be a little bit good at cleanup, but due to its lack of board control and lack of options and not really having good traits, it's not really going to get used much. Anyways, as far as Soulforge and good mythics, there actually are some. The most noteworthy one is Wild Queen. You probably saw me using her a lot in Guild Wars. Very consistent option for scoring upwards of 9,600 in Guild Wars. Probably one of the single best Guild War troops if you're looking for something to improve your Guild War days, as she is usable on brown, purple, and green day, and viable on all three of those days as well. So pretty much half your Guild War teams, you get to center completely around this mythic once you own it. She gets to steal a bunch of attack, which makes it so they do less skull damage to you, which will lower your score less and allow you to do more damage quicker, which will increase your score. It also gets to, and it applies it to the first ally, so you'll automatically be able to get that to your front line. You'll then also be able to get a bunch of skulls and greens. This will not only mana generate back into itself, but obviously you'll get skulls in combination with not only their attack being lower, but your attack being higher. And this whole combination ends up working out to be very, very well. One other pretty nice thing about this mythic is the traits are not necessarily required, so even if you don't have the capability to fully trade it, they're not really that needed. Very rarely do you use much of these, if any of these at all. It's almost entirely the ability, the reason that you're using it. And for only 22 mana cost, it gets pretty good value compared to most mythics that are 24 or above on their mana cost, despite this being an amazing ability. But anyways, that's definitely worth going for. And there was one other one. Where'd it go? Fair Ra. So Fair Ra is also available this week. So Fair Ra, something that you kind of get situationally. Theoretically, you could go the entire game without never getting a Fair Ra. However, I do eventually advise, especially if you're going to be planning on farming souls for a long duration. Pretty much every optimal soul farming team does use at least one Fair Ra, if not multiple. Normally one or two, though you really only need one for the most part. But main premise of him, of course, is his very final trait, which gives 150% soul bonus. This is obviously extremely high, as the next highest and the only other soul bonus is a 50% increase. So this is 3 times more effective than the other increase that exists within the game. And this does stack, so if you did have 2 or 3, 2 of them, for example, would be stacking 300% extra soul bonus, as it does stack fully onto the base value of the souls that you would normally gain. So very great troop for farming up souls if you're looking to get Dawnbringer, if you're just looking to level up everything so you can go get stars for your kingdoms. Whenever you're planning on finally doing like multiple dozens of hours of soul farming, this can save you literal hours of farming. He almost doubles the rate in some instances of how many souls you can get per hour. Maybe not exactly double, but it's very, very close to doubling your rate of souls. So if you're looking to finally get around to soul farming, Fair Ra is the one to pick up. Probably not good necessarily as your first mythic. I did on my Switch account get it as a first mythic, so I could rush Dawnbringer and such a little bit quicker. But do keep in mind, if you do get this as a first mythic, you can't really use him much offensively unless you already have good legend offensive options. So it's not going to be as good as maybe like a good damage source like Wild Queen, for example. But it will definitely save you a lot of time in the long run of farming. So the earlier, the better, as far as getting this troop. Anyways, that's Fair Ra. Other than that, don't forget Tome of Karakoth. As per usual lately, we are getting a new weapon pretty much every single week since the 5.0 patch, because they added 33 new weapons to the game. There was one per kingdom, and Broken Spire already had one. So for most events going forward for the next months now, we will still keep getting a new weapon there. So make sure to go get that, and don't forget if you're in late game. Other than that, every single weapon here, including the one we just got, is completely useless. There's not a single viable weapon as far as what is obtainable. Actually, it's all 5 of these right here. All 5 of these are completely useless and weapons you would never use in pretty much any context whatsoever. The only reason you would get them is to have them for kingdom upgrading purposes and for completionist's sake. However, However, as far as actually using them, you could pretty much just 100% skip any weapons this week, so do be mindful of that. But if you need a good, cheap one to upgrade, of course, that's the only epic one available, so might as well get it. Anyways, in other news, let's go over a bunch of teams. This is related to everything that we got going on this week. So, of course, first, let's start with the War Lore event. So here, the main one I'm going to be running almost looks exactly like what we were running last week, oddly enough. It is actually viable for it. Spirit Fox, and not actually cast a Spirit Fox, Arachnine Weaver, Life and Death, and Possessed King. The Spirit Fox here is mostly just to be there as a frontline tank, as a meat shield. We can obviously go and cast it if we want, with its empowered little bit of mana drain, if we truly need a mana drain. However, the main purpose here is to have a flesh shield up front that doesn't block our mana. And since it has Empower, as long as it doesn't get mana drained, it should just maintain its full mana. So that will allow us to go directly into Arachnine Weaver. And we have extra spell damage this week, so we'll be able to stack that with Arachnine Weaver and then go get a bunch of damage. And if we happen to lose a Spirit Fox, well, we get a web spinner there off of the Arachnine Weaver, so should be pretty easy. You might notice I'm also using a slightly different era class here. Since we don't necessarily need Orb Weaver, we switch over to Archmagus, so that will gain even more purple, so that we can gain the Weaver up even quicker, so that we can kill at a quicker pace. We do not have a half mana start available this week, so getting mana at a quicker pace like that is going to help make up for the fact that we'll be starting with 20% mana rather than 50%. And other than that, Possessed King is just here for a little bit of mana. You can easily replace out Possessed King with something else. However, I just did it here for a little bit of extra mana accumulation, as there aren't too many mana accumulating options that we have available for this event. Other than that, your next best bet is literally just run every full AoE option you have, anything that can hit all enemies. Black Manacles you get very early in the game from upgrading your brown and purple hero mastery whenever you gain a level. This ends up working out very effectively with its nice amount of AoE damage, combined with the fact that it has a chance to devour, which in first slot is pretty useful. And you basically just run and just keep throwing down huge AoEs that hit all enemies. And you can throw Queen of Tanya in there, you can throw double Atlanta, one of which you get for free from completing out the Divinian Fields questline if you haven't already. This is pretty useful because once you get her second trait, she has a +1 yellow. Use 2 of them, you have a +2 yellow, meaning you can 2-turn her if she surges one of the 2 yellows that she takes. So that's pretty much the premise here. We have a +2 into our Queen of Tanya, so she can 2-turn if she double surges. We have a +2 into Atlanta, so she can get full mana as long as one of the 2 surges. And Black Manacle has all the purple, which it gets from Archmages, which once again can end up 2-turning as long as one of them end up surging. So overall, we basically have a bunch of options that could potentially get full mana within 2 turns. And then you just throw their big hit and hopefully just kill them all out. That is pretty much the game plan. And also, of course, if you're running with any amount of potion effects, which you most likely are, if you bought a few of them, you'll have enchant as well, so even if they're fully blocked, they would still be getting mana over time, and then you just throw a big hit into a big hit into a big hit, and it'll slowly chip them down all the way until you end up winning. And we do have extra spell damage to use for the event, so should end up working out pretty well. As I mentioned, there aren't really much options for mana accumulating, so just kind of going with those really big hits and just kind of using links to kind of make up for your lack of mana accumulation is pretty much the best way to go for that. As far as the faction that we got going on tomorrow, something cheap and easy to use for the lower level range is a Mountain Crusher, which you get automatically from leveling up your hero, double Gargoyle, and a Leprechaun. Leprechaun in the Glory and Gem Key drop table if you don't already have it. Really great mana accumulator, one of the best in the entire game. And double Gargoyle is obtained from gosh, why do I forget the name of that faction now? Actually, I could just click on it, it'll tell me. Hall of Guardians! But if you go use your Chaos Shards in Hall of Guardians, you'll have a chance of getting a Gargoyle, pretty high chance, within about 100 to 200 shards. You're very likely to get at least one, if you don't already have them. Really great troop. Boost ratio is based on attack of your team. For the lower level range, it will be able to run through most, if not all, of the lower level range if you're just going and doing all of the battle simply for the rewards. Other than that, for the higher level range, or literally for all of it, you can run a Tesla team. Unfortunately, you will not be able to run a half mana start with a red-purple restriction. However, you will be able to run a Mountain Crusher Leprechaun combo into just a bunch of Tesla. So very similar to kind of how we did it for the last Friday faction. You can kind of run it like this, except without the half mana start, which if you're missing that legend, you can still end up doing. And of course, Tesla, if you got it from Soulforge last week, was available then. Otherwise, she's a completely random drop from Glory Gem Guild and VIP chests. Other than that, we got ourselves Pure Faction for the event tomorrow. As far as what you can use, there's a couple different options. However, the main premise is spam Tartarus. You could literally even just go for Tartarus if you truly wanted to. But it ends up dealing damage to an enemy boosted by their attack. This is obviously very, very, very strong because obviously the enemy will have an absurdly high attack when you're doing level 500 Pure Faction. It's among one of the better faction troops in the game for countering out the enemy because your attack will be lower, so they're doing less damage to you and you'll be doing more damage to them. Obviously, this requires you to go at a little bit of a quicker pacing, but with enchant and having barrier from potion effects and stuff like that from doing the Tuesday event and all the other potions, you should be in a pretty comfortable position overall. So yeah, should be pretty straightforward. You can literally just spam him. However, for this, I did go with a little bit of a frontline tank with Inferno Machine. You can also use this as a meat shield summoner. However, I'm just kind of using it as a little mini tank. And we also got this guy, which is mostly just to accumulate a little bit mana and to make sure we're not only using 2 colors. With this in total, we're using 5 colors. And if you're only using this thing with 3 Torterraces, you'd be covering 4 colors. So ends up working out pretty well. And basically, the whole premise is keep casting Torterras until you win. And that's all you really have to do for the level 500 Pure faction. It's a rather straightforward faction, actually, and among one of the easier ones, at least with potion effects anyways. Other than that, for the Sorcerer class for this Thursday, a really easy way to run it will just be Wall of Tentacles. 3 Wall of Tentacle casts. Once you have 1 Wall of Tentacle to full mana and the other one to at least 5 mana, you can keep casting Wall of Tentacles and you can infinitely cast it as long as you don't get mana drained by like the Corvash that's in the battles. But as long as you don't get mana drained, just be able to keep looping it. You then cast something that has 15 mana costs or less, ideally Black Manacles or something similar. And yeah, you just keep doing that. Cast Black Manacle, cast, do Black Manacle, and you basically just keep doing Wall of Tentacles 3 times, do a Black Manacle cast, and keep repeating this until you win. And yeah, should be pretty straightforward and easy win. And yep, that's all the teams. So if you guys have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. As per usual, we will be streaming all of the campaign tasks related to this campaign week at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight, as we always end up doing. And as far as what's actually available this week, we do end up getting a little bit of bonus. One really noteworthy thing actually to mention about this is for any of you that do achievement hunting, on pretty much every platform of the game, there is an achievement in the game which is finally available as of this week to go do 100 campaign tasks in a campaign. And that is available right now, since all you'd have to do is 4 more tasks, and boom, assuming you've done all the prior ones, and you will have the achievement. And there's also one more for reaching the level 1000, the final artifact thing, which could be done a week early if you end up buying the other pack, or the bigger pass, or simply on the 10th week, which will be available in a few weeks. But anyways, as far as other things that are available right now, the most other really noteworthy thing that we end up getting is mostly the artifact upgrades. If you bought the normal pass, or if you're playing free to play, you will end up being able to get an additional 2 magic this week. And if you end up buying the more expensive pass, you'll be able to get another 2 magic this week on top of that. So you'll be able to get the max amount of magic that is available, because we actually don't get any additional magic going forward. So this is where most people will be, and if you bought the expensive pass, you'll have a +6 a little bit earlier, a week earlier. Of course, that won't make too big of an impact, but hey, it could help with factions and stuff like that, if nothing else, and help speed some things along. Of course, magic, a very useful stat to have, and do keep in mind these stats will go all the way down to 0. Once they go to week 10, it will reset all the way back to 0, and then we'll have to do the whole thing again when the next campaign starts for the second campaign, which will be in, 4 or 5 weeks from now? It's 1 week after the campaign ends. So basically how it goes is it'll be campaign chapter 10, and then we end up going with 1 week off, which will have Tower of Doom, and then the following week will end up being chapter 1 of the next campaign. And that's pretty much how those things cycle. But anyways, guys, if you have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. I will catch all of you guys later. Thank you all so much for watching as always. Greatly appreciated, and I will catch you guys later. Goodbye, everyone, and enjoy the event week.